Imagine the fog lifting from a Newfoundland cove and revealing not one abandoned Norse camp, but a living harbor. Longships rest beside turf-roofed halls, smoke rises from workshops, and families prepare for another winter. This is alternate history, not a claim about what happened. Image_shorts_1, lone Norse navigator seen from behind on a rocky Newfoundland headland, looking toward a longship emerging through Atlantic fog. Period-appropriate wool cloak, solemn cold dawn, vertical 916, no text. Image_shorts_2, two Norse navigators seen from behind studying an unmarked wooden coastal model and simple blank parchment inside a timber and turf hall. Oil lamp light, no readable marks, vertical 916. Image_shorts_3, extreme macro close-up of a weathered wooden amulet carved with simple Norse knotwork resting on dark coastal soil and moss. Warm raking light, no readable runes, vertical 916. What if the Norse did not abandon Vinland after a few dangerous seasons? What if a small community survived, not by conquering the coast, but by negotiating a place within a world already inhabited, traveled, and understood by indigenous peoples? Image_shorts_1, lone Norse settlers seen from behind on a modest timber lookout above a turf-roofed outpost, dark forest and river beyond, vertical 916, no combat. Image_shorts_2, a Norse trader and a local indigenous guide seen from behind at the edge of a high coastal bluff, looking over a sheltered cove and forest routes, respectful distance and historically grounded clothing, vertical 916. Image_shorts_3, extreme macro close-up of a small hand-forged iron axe head partly resting in rich dark soil beside wood shavings. Age's surface, warm sidelight, vertical 916. We know the Norse reached Newfoundland. Woodcut at Meadows proves they were active there in the year 1021. The mystery is not whether they crossed the Atlantic. It is what might have happened if one fragile foothold had endured. Image_shorts_1, small group of Norse settlers seen from behind around an outdoor fire beside turf halls, sparks rising into a cold night sky, restrained documentary realism, vertical 916. Image_shorts_2, a local indigenous guide and a Norse navigator seen from behind walking along a narrow forest trail toward distant coastal light, respectful partnership, no weapons emphasized, vertical 916. Image_shorts_3, extreme macro close-up of a bronze ring-headed cloakpin in one iron boat rivet on rough wool cloth, archaeologically grounded, warm side lighting, no writing, vertical 916. The real story begins in the late 10th century. Eric the Red helped establish Norse farms in Greenland, where survival depended on livestock, stored food, timber imports, and reliable ships. Greenland was difficult, but it proved that Norse families could build communities at the edge of their known world. Around the year 1000, voyages associated with Leif Erikson carried Norse sailors farther west. Later sagas described lands rich in timber, fish, grazing, and grapes or berries. But those sagas were written centuries afterward, and the exact geography of their Vinland remains debated. The sagas also connect Thorfinn Karlsefni with a larger expedition of settlers and livestock. In our timeline, his attempt failed to become permanent. In this alternate timeline, the expedition arrives better supplied, includes more skilled craftspeople and families, and treats its first camp as a base to maintain, not a frontier to consume and leave. Karlsefni's greatest enemy is not an army, it is distance. Every broken mast, failed harvest, and delayed voyage separates Vinland from Greenland by hundreds of dangerous miles. The settlers build storehouses, repair sheds, and turf walls before they build anything grand. They are not alone. The Norse sagas call the people they encountered Skrælings, an outsider's name that concealed many distinct indigenous communities. These communities already possess their own territories, seasonal routes, technologies, alliances, and reasons to approach or avoid the newcomers. Early meetings revolve around exchange. Norse cloth, dairy foods, small iron pieces, and crafted objects are offered for hides, local foods, and knowledge of rivers and coastlines. Neither side understands the other fully, but both recognize value. The peace remains fragile. Norse livestock stray into gathering grounds. Timber cutting changes familiar access routes. A missing tool, or misunderstood gesture, can look like theft or insult. The danger grows not from one people being naturally hostile, but from two systems of land use colliding without a shared language. In the original history, limited numbers and recurring conflict helped make permanent settlement untenable. Here, Karlsefni chooses a different response. He restricts travel beyond the cove, orders restitution for damaged resources, and seeks repeated meetings with the specific neighboring families who use the area. The first winter tests every promise. Stored food runs low, sea ice damages a landing place, and a repair ship from Greenland arrives late. Survival depends on careful rationing and on local knowledge of fish runs, edible plants, shelter, and seasonal movement. Iron becomes valuable, but not magical. A small bloomery can produce only limited metal, and most of it is needed for boat rivets, knives, axes, and repairs. Its scarcity gives the Norse bargaining power, while unequal access creates suspicion among neighboring communities. Karlsefni learns that there is no single indigenous policy toward Vinland. Some families welcome trade, others fear lost access to the coast. Still others prefer no contact at all. Permanent survival requires separate agreements, renewed season by season, rather than one treaty with an imagined united tribe. The decisive divergence is modest. One neighboring community accepts a restricted Norse winter station in exchange for reliable repairs, controlled trade, and respect for seasonal hunting and fishing grounds. It is not surrender, and it is not friendship. It is a practical arrangement that both sides can revoke. That agreement changes the settlement's character. Vinland is no longer merely an extension of Greenland, yet it cannot survive without Greenlandic ships or indigenous cooperation. It becomes a dependent coastal station, part Norse harbor, part negotiated guest community, and permanently vulnerable to failure. Years pass, and the settlement grows just enough to create new pressure. More pasture is cleared, more timber is cut, and Norse animals damage food gathering areas. To the settlers, this looks like survival. To neighboring communities, it looks like an agreement being stretched beyond recognition. Several local groups respond without attacking the walls. They restrict access to fishing places, redirect trade, and warn travelers away from inland routes. The result is a seasonal blockade, not a grand siege, but something more dangerous to a settlement that cannot feed itself alone. Inside the outpost, food and patience begin to disappear. Some settlers demand a show of force. Others argue that violence would end every alliance and close the coast to them. Karlsefni faces the truth. A few dozen armed people can defend a gate, but they cannot command an entire landscape. Then an incident remembered from the sagas takes on a different meaning. During a tense meeting near the settlement, a large bull breaks through a side enclosure and bellows across the open ground. People on both sides recoil from the unfamiliar animal in sudden movement. For a moment, panic threatens to become bloodshed. Bows rise, shields turn. But the bull is driven away, and leaders on both sides pull their people back. No one wins the encounter. More importantly, no one dies, and that narrow escape changes the argument. The next meeting takes place on neutral ground. People who have learned fragments of each other's languages serve as imperfect intermediaries. The talks begin with grievances, damaged gathering sites, missing goods, broken promises, and fears that more ships will keep coming. The agreement that follows is specific. A buffer zone is marked around the harbor. Fishing and timber access change by season. Livestock must remain fenced. Harm requires restitution. Iron may be traded as tools and repair material, but neither side receives unrestricted access to the other's territory. This is the true turning point. The Norse do not secure Vinland by defeating its inhabitants. They survive by abandoning the assumption that a rival creates ownership. Their foothold continues only because local communities decide that a limited, useful, and accountable harbor is preferable to uncontrolled expansion. Not every settler accepts the compromise. Some return to Greenland, taking stories of a rich but politically difficult coast. Those who remain are fewer, more dependent, and more likely to form lasting partnerships with neighbors through trade, fosterage, adoption, and eventually some marriages. Vinland endures, but not as an empire. It becomes a small chain of seasonal landing places, anchored by one permanent harbor. Its map is not drawn in borders. It is held together by remembered routes, family obligations, exchange partners, and the dangerous Atlantic passage back to Greenland. Over generations, the harbor community begins to change. Norse speech absorbs local terms for places, foods, weather, and travel. Building methods remain recognizably Norse. but storage, clothing, and seasonal work increasingly reflect knowledge learned on the coast. Some households link the communities more deeply through marriage, adoption, fosterage, and commercial partnership. This does not erase older identities or produce instant harmony. It creates people with obligations on both sides of the harbor, and a powerful interest in preventing either side from destroying the relationship. Iron spreads slowly through the network. A repaired axe can transform a day's woodworking, and a nail can save a boat, but small furnaces cannot revolutionize a continent. Metal remains scarce, recycled, and politically valuable. One material among many, not a shortcut to domination. Boat building changes as well. Norse clinker construction remains useful offshore, while local knowledge shapes lighter craft for rivers, bays, and shallow coastal water. The result is not one perfect hybrid ship, but a harbor where different vessels are built for different journeys. Knowledge of the continent expands through people, not maps. Guides teach river mouths, portages, storm shelters, and seasonal routes. Norse sailors add offshore bearings and Atlantic timing. Together, these overlapping memories turn the settlement into an information exchange between two worlds. The effects remain uneven. Some northeastern communities trade regularly with the harbor, some use its goods indirectly, others reject contact or resist encroachment. No single Vinland alliance speaks for the coast, and no modern indigenous nation can be safely identified as the sagas' unnamed people. Disease is the darkest uncertainty. New infections could move through a small contact network and cause severe local suffering. But with few ships and limited population movement, the scale and path would be impossible to predict. A later continent-wide catastrophe is not automatic in the 11th century. Vinland also changes Greenland. Timber, iron bog ore hides, and information move east when the sea allows. This does not guarantee Greenland's survival, but it gives its settlements another source of material and another reason to keep western routes alive. As centuries pass and Norse Greenland becomes more isolated, the Vinland harbor faces a choice. It can vanish with the Atlantic link, or become increasingly rooted in North America. In this timeline, the second path wins. The community survives because its local relationships matter more than distant authority. By the 15th century, this is still not a North American nation in the modern sense. It is a patchwork of harbor families, trading partners, and seasonal gathering places. Its power lies in translation, between languages, maritime traditions, legal expectations, and memories of earlier contact. When Bristol-backed voyagers, such as John Cabot, enter the northwestern Atlantic in the late 15th century, they do not meet an untouched coast. They encounter communities that already know foreign ships, iron exchange, guarded harbors, and the dangers of unequal trade. That familiarity would not make later colonization peaceful. It might, however, change its opening moves. Coastal leaders could bargain with more information, restrict access earlier, and use established interpreters and alliances. European newcomers would face diplomacy shaped by 5 centuries of experience. The largest consequences would likely remain regional. Trade, language, disease exposure, and political alliances in the Northeast could develop along a different timeline, while most of the continent followed paths beyond Vinland's reach. One enduring harbor would not control North America, but it could change how the Atlantic world first connected to it. So what if the Norse had permanently settled Vinland? The answer is not a Viking empire across America. It is something smaller and more plausible. A fragile Atlantic community surviving through limits, exchange, and adaptation, and changing the terms of contact centuries before the history we know. Every empire has a story history forgot. This has been Historic's Vault. More are coming. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.